We have to talk about Omega versus Okada, the forever rivals, the two who had a series of matches in Japan, which in my opinion have to be considered some of the greatest wrestling matches of all time. This did not sniff those matches. This was nowhere close to those matches. Was it still a good match? Yes. Was it still fun? Yes. Here is the thing, right? Going into this match, I already knew it wasn't going to reach those levels. Why? Well, firstly, both of them are a bit older now, but secondly, and more importantly, those matches they had in Japan would not have worked as well in front of an American crowd. They are two different styles. They don't necessarily translate the same. And this match, they tried to Americanize it a little bit, and parts of that worked, and it certainly worked for the crowd, right? But this wasn't even 5-star in my eyes. On the Wrestling Republic system, it was 4.5 stars. I don't want to say I'm a little underwhelmed, but I am a little underwhelmed. I did expect it, and it was still a fun match. Maybe we've just been spoiled a little bit too much by Kenny Omega in AEW, but the fact is, at least to me, this was nowhere near their other matches. But Shad, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't expect it to be one of these matches that they've had in New Japan at the Tokyo Dome at Wrestle Kingdoms. They're in a different space right now, and I think the point of it being in a different crowd in a stadium at that, right? You have to cater in different ways, and you have to deliver in different ways, and I think the pacing of the match maybe did them a little bit of a disservice, a bit, like maybe people were a little tired off that standpoint, but it still got a good reception. And I thought it was still a well wrestled match. The surprise is the finish, and the surprise is the result. I was oh so confident that Kenny Omega was going to come out on top tonight. I thought he was going to win this match, come in with this unified belt that they're creating and ushering another run by him. It didn't happen. It was Okada. It was the Callis family helping Okada kind of get in with the win. And you see Omega and Ibushi walking out. And to me, that does ring the bell that I don't think this is the end of it, which I'm cool with. But how are we going to kind of continue the story? How are we going to make it a little bit more compelling? What does like this heel Okada with the Callis family kind of bring in? Because I'm not gonna lie to you, I think the Callis family is a little bloated as a unit. I think Don Callis is I think he's probably arguably maybe the best manager in pro wrestling this past year of what he's actually achieved and what he does for his talent. But it is the fact that there's a lot of guys in the group and you kind of get lost in that bit of the story, or it gets a little bit redundant because you're seeing him manage so many people. I'm curious to see how that goes within it. But yeah, the match itself, it was solid enough for me.
Fair enough, but what about you, Anthony? Did this under-deliver or did this hit your expectations?
It kind of met my expectations. Like you said, they've had health issues in Omega's case, and this is years after their last ones. It's a different type of audience. It's an audience that's not going to accept a 45 to 60-minute match that the Japanese fans would. So you're right; they have to adjust. And also, you don't want to be just playing nothing but greatest hits. Like they faced each other multiple times in Japan, so you're trying to give new flavor to an iconic match from the past. So I enjoyed it. I don't think it was as enjoyable as the other ones because again, this had run-ins. The Japanese ones, from what I recall, had no run-ins. So like that kind of like took you out of a little bit too. But I'm curious to see where they go with this. I said this on the prediction show. I don't like the idea that Tony Khan made the statement of going, well, it's a unified championship, but it's really not because technically they could still carry the Continental and the International. I'm like, stop. Like, if that's the definition of unified, it's unified. You're done with 3 belts, but now you're like, nah, you can still do 3. I'm like, stop with the 7,000 belts for everybody. Not everyone is Ultimo Dragon or Mercedes Moné. Not everybody needs 7,000 belts. 1 is sufficient.
To be fair, I think he has clarified this a little bit since. I believe what he was trying to say is the title history is going to go into this title belt. So
That is the definition of
it's
unified, yes.
yeah. So I think what he was trying to say is it's not going to be like the new IWGP World Championship where they kind of just got rid of the previous history. They are literally unifying the lineages. And the one point he did say is you can carry the belts together, but they will be defended as one if you choose to do that. But again,
if you choose to do that,
just
it's
get
the
rid
same
of the
thing,
other two.
which is the same thing with the Eddie Kingston with the Triple Crown. It was all defended together until it wasn't. Could we stop doing this?
That is actually very true. D6 Warlord says Kenny had 4. That was true. I like that belt collector gimmick, to be fair.
Well, because 2 of them were TNA, because technically you had the Impact and the TNA because they were sort of goofy, but technically it was 3.
We had a similar situation with that, didn't we?